And then we have to turn on kick. And then I gotta verify that we're running live on these. Looks like we're good there. Come on, kick. Looks like we're good there. Oh, I need to welcome back, everybody.
Hey.
To FFT, Fantasy Football Theories. Giving you the game picks, injury updates, and usually fantasy must starts, but I need to turn that off. But fantasy football season is over, so playoff time.
DFS is not over, though. It's not.
It's not. Yeah. So I'm your host. I'm calling it like I see it, and I try to bring in an extra element beyond regular statistics. And you can find me at Cloud Adjuster on all social media. With me today are Ken and Brian. Ken is our game analyst, watching every game and going beyond the stats for fantasy projections, but we're not doing fantasy. You can find him at Ken Against the Clock on Instagram, Mr. Goodbet on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Baby Yaga on the Sleeper app.
Baba Yaga.
Baba Yaga. Yeah, I'm always going to read your names wrong. Am I? That's just going to be something I do.
And then, it's Baba Yaga.
And then there's Brian. He's our fantasy badman expert, fantasy football and poker player in the casino industry for over 20 years. Our defending league champion, who is no longer our league champion, and absolutely destroying in the DFS this year.
And special
you don't find
guest
him,
today.
he finds you.
He's my 3-year-old son.
Yeah,
he's in the studio. So if you guys hear that,
we got the baby in the studio.
Yeah. Little Cowboys fan over here. Look at you, looking so good in your Parsons jersey.
Still one of two kids that are Cowboy fans.
Yeah, one. I got one. That was a bad loss.
So we're up to a late start, everybody, and I'm sorry and I apologize for that, but stuff happens. But we're here, and I don't think we're like in such a need to rush out of here today, so we can just sit here and BS for a little bit. Past our normal time, I think. I'm comfortable saying that.
Extra long Homer minute.
Maybe an extra long Homer minute. Yeah.
I'll have to take off to go get stuff ready for us.
Sure.
For the barbecue, because that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna barbecue today.
Hell yeah!
And watch some football. It's gonna be great. And
that's
actually,
how you do it.
After they postponed the Steelers game, and it became 3 straight days of playoff doubleheaders, I thought to myself, why don't they do this every year?
Yeah.
Like why? And and especially when you look at it right now, we have a day of games in the books, and the NFC hasn't played yet. What are you doing? What are you doing? Like, this is obviously not competitively fair. So I had the idea, and I told these guys over text, like the NFL should just do 3 straight doubleheaders. If you're going to play one game on MLK Day, play 2 games on MLK Day, and just bogart the weekend.
It's what the NFL does.
That's typically what they do. So I'm surprised they didn't, as soon as they decided to put a game on MLK Day, someone had to go, wait a minute, that's MLK Day. And the NFL had to go,
we play on Christmas.
And instead, why it's so they seemed indifferent to it rather than embracing it and taking advantage of it and turning it into a marketing opportunity.
Day, yeah.
And so I think that's what they should do. And they could also, fix the problem they have right now with the wonky schedule. And you could line up, the same seeds on each day from either side of the conference, so that everybody's getting the same competitive advantage or disadvantage, and you can actually
and that's another advantage you could have is by getting the number 2 seed, you get to play early on Saturday and have a little bit more time.
I was thinking Sunday. I was thinking the 2 seeds would probably want to play on Sunday because that gives them the middle ground. Where actually it's the best because that gives them the most time. Well, the most time after the season ends, and then also in between rounds, because the 1 seeds are going to play on Saturday next week, which they should, and they should play against you should line it up so if every home team wins, the 1 seed's going to have to play against the 4 seed, right?
Right.
So put them on Monday, so they have the competitive disadvantage of having had to play on Monday night and then go and play against the 1 seed on Saturday, right?
Right.
Right. So that just makes a lot of sense. So play your 3s and 6s on Saturday, play your 2s and 7s on Sunday, play your 4s and 5s on Monday. Fixed.
I like it. All right, NFL, send us a check. You're welcome.
Yeah, yeah. It's on. Yeah, it exists. So if you try and do it without bringing me money, I'm gonna come at you now.
But at the same time, we're available for marketing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Because I mean, they just to piggyback off your idea, they could absolutely have their little interviews too. What MLK means to you,
exactly.
has the MLK
All the players
influence?
and stuff like that. There's so many things that you could do. Because they already do those types of things with Thanksgiving, with Christmas. You could have all kinds of extra stories, and it makes a lot of sense, especially like when the league is like what 85% African American players.
Yeah,
Yeah, make
absolutely.
it a thing.
So yeah, like take over your holiday. On that note, we can talk about the Homer Minute. You want to lead us off?
Yeah. Okay.
You gotta be feeling pretty good, right? Because this is like the best thing that could possibly happen for the Steelers is like randomness happening in the game, right?
Absolutely. Like
Weather,
I wish we
change
would.
the
I
time.
wish we were playing today because I wanted to play in the blizzard. You know what I mean? Give us as many.
I don't think it's gonna be that
X-factors
much
as
better
possible.
tomorrow.
That's true. So yeah, here's our path. Okay, here's the path for the Steelers. Yes, we're going up against the Bills. Yes, they're probably a better team right now, especially with TJ out. But with the elements, with the randomness, like we have a chance.
Puncher's chance for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if we can get past this game, guess who we play? We play the Ravens.
Who you beaten them
beat
twice. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is our divisional opponent that we beat twice. We can absolutely beat them again. So I see the path of getting to the championship game. We'll see who we play there, but the Steelers are doing it to me again. They're giving
you
me
hope.
that little bit of hope, man. I'm
Tugging
just
your
like,
heart.
Oh, quit doing that. Like I know we're not that good this year.
Why couldn't you have just given us like a sunny afternoon in Buffalo so that we knew Josh Allen was going to walk in and just beat us? You know
Right.
why? Why you got to give us hope? No, but there really is hope there.
I agree.
Because in a snow game, anything can happen.
Anything can happen,
and
yeah.
especially when your team is focused on the ground anyway.
Yep.
So you get to
we're gonna pound the crap out of Najee.
you still get to use 2 of your best 3 playmakers on offense with Jalen Warren and Najee Harris.
Yep.
So it's a disadvantage for Buffalo, if anything.
I agree.
Now, having said that, Buffalo has Josh Allen, and Josh Allen don't care how much snow's coming down or how hard the wind's blowing.
And it does suck that he's a runner in this kind of condition. That does give them a bit of an advantage. I mean, I'd rather have Josh Allen than Mason Rudolph in the snow. That's for sure.
And so now, winning in the playoffs dramatically shifts where you pick in the draft. As a Steelers fan, what are you rooting for?
Oh, well, I'm rooting for the win.
You want the win?
Of course.
Okay.
But if we get the
I mean,
loss,
because getting to the playoffs is a win.
like-
Getting to the playoffs is a win as a fan, And then afterwards, it's I mean, where you go out, depending on your outlook for the team, I guess it's if your team really, if you feel like you have a puncher's chance at a Super Bowl, that's one thing. But if you feel like if you win 2 games and then you get crushed in the championship game, and it's we really could have used those 8 spots.
true. But if we win a game or 2, it's because Mason Rudolph comes out and he's the man. He's all of a sudden,
this is a
learned the
conversation I wasn't
system.
expecting.
It's not happening. Don't get me wrong. We know Mason Rudolph. We know who Mason Rudolph is. But you gotta have that hope, man. You gotta have that hope. You're a fan.
You know what I feel like? Where I feel
but-
like you're at right now is as a Cowboy fan. I was here 20 years ago when Troy Aikman retired kind of abruptly, and the Cowboys suffered through 15 different quarterbacks over the next 4 or 5 years before Tony Romo finally broke through,
right?
And took the job over. But between Aikman and Romo, there was I'm serious. There was like 15 different quarterbacks. Guys named like Clint Sterner and Drew Henson, and the highlights were Quincy Carter and a 38-year-old Vinny Testaverde and a washed-up Drew Bledsoe. These are the highlights. You know what I'm saying? So like I feel for you. But this is another reason I'm legitimately asking this question. Like as a fan, like if I were a Steelers fan, I would want them to just go home because this class is loaded with quarterbacks. So if you have a top 15 pick, you'll get one. Like the Steelers had to take Kenny Pickett at number 20 as the first quarterback off the board in his class. That's not when you want to draft a quarterback. There's like 7 quarterbacks so far
and
that look like they might have a chance at being NFL quarterbacks in this class.
I do wish I was in Tomlin's head. I wish I knew what Tomlin thought of Kenny Pickett.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I honestly just don't know.
Because he's healthy now and still not going to play.
Yeah, he's healthy. He's not playing because Mason Rudolph's hot. But Kenny Pickett, like he threw what was it, 2 interceptions over the first 10 or 12 games or something like that. I mean, it was.
He just wasn't throwing touchdowns. It was the problem.
Correct.
He just wasn't making plays.
But what we were asking of him is don't turn the ball over, and that's what he was doing. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I don't know if it was a product of what we were asking of him or if we were just asking because he's not very good and like this is all we can ask of him. I wish I was in Tomlin's head and really knew kind of where he was at with him because I don't freaking know. Which is a weird place to be going into the playoffs. You don't know who your quarterback of the future is, but
yeah, for a team that's in the playoffs, like you're not sure. Yeah, you're not sure if the guy. That's crazy.
It's a weird situation.
I don't even know how to put words to it, honestly, because like you got your potential, we think could be, don't know, future quarterback, healthy, has experience, and is not going to start for your team in the playoffs. It's very, very strange. I'm trying to think of a time where we've been in a spot like this, and the only thing I can really think of is remember back in the day when the Browns had Kelly Holcomb and Tommy Maddox, I think it was.
I don't remember that.
And they were. It was. I think this was the last time. It was before Baker Mayfield. The last time the Browns made the playoffs before Baker Mayfield, and it was like as a wild card in 2001 or something. 2002.
Who remembers back that far, man? The Browns in the playoffs. Sure.
And that's the thing. It doesn't happen very often. Like it's typically the teams that make the playoffs. They're riding their quarterback into the playoffs, or they're the 2000 Ravens,
right?
Or the 2002 Bucks, I guess. But Brad Johnson was better than.
And I thought that I think we thought we had a defense like the 2000 Ravens going into this season, and I think that's how we were going into it. Like, look, Kenny, just don't turn the ball over. Defense will win the game.
The defense is going to score 1 touchdown a game, so,
right?
Don't mess it up. And
we were doing that for a long time, so. I'm very curious what we're going to do in the future. So draft picks and whatnot. You know what? We're in the playoffs. Do I want to see my team win in the playoffs? Hell yeah, I want to see my team win in the playoffs. I don't care what it costs us, man. Let's win.
F them picks.
Like it.
And on that note,
all right, who's next?
You can go ahead and go.
I guess I'll go.
Right.
I was, going into the week, I was excited / nervous about playing the Packers. It's like as a fan, it's like good. We're playing the Packers. Like this is one of the teams that's caused us problems. Like if we're gonna win the Super Bowl, I don't want to like happenstance our way to the Super Bowl and have it be lucky. I want to run over the teams that have caused us problems in the past. And just be done with that, And so the Packers are on that list, the 49ers are on that list, and the way things are set up now, we'll get to play both of them.
Yeah.
So that's good. But they've also caused us problems. So as a fan, and like Jordan and the Packers in particular have been hot. So I was a little nervous after watching the video. On their last month of games, I'm not nearly as nervous. The Cowboys are playing a much tighter football than the Packers do. Jordan Love, for as much as people are into him right now and hyping him up, he makes several turnover-worthy plays a game. He still takes chances with the ball. I don't think he's particularly great with his accuracy outside the numbers. It is fun to watch him make some of those off-platform plays that remind you of Aaron Rodgers because that's where he learned it. But he's not Aaron Rodgers, and he doesn't have the.
Well, I mean, if you've been listening to all the analysts on TV this week, he is completely Aaron Rodgers. He's the next Hall of Famer for the Green Bay Packers,
Which is
he's
why I
amazing.
don't listen to analysts. I actually watch the games. And if you watch the games, the biggest difference that happened over the last month for the Packers is Aaron Jones is healthy. He is the best player on that team. And it's real quick fantasy football. Aaron Jones is a 29-year-old running back. So in Dynasty, a lot of people are going to be running away from him. I'm going to buy him this offseason. The Packers
On the cheap, right?
yeah, I'm going to try and pick him anything. If I can get him for anything less than like a top second round pick, so like a mid second round pick or lower for Aaron Jones, and I'll be super happy because he's going to help you make a championship run next year with the Packers. There's looking at the contract situation, it's going to be really hard for them to get rid of him. They don't save much money by cutting him, and his cap number is like over $10 million. They have a really young team that they don't have to pay yet, so they don't need to cut him. And the biggest thing is he's their leader. He's the leader of this team. He leads, like his energy changes the way that the team plays, and they feed off of him. Like you see when Aaron Jones makes big plays, you see, multiples of receivers and linemen and stuff like that picking him up and high-fiving him and stuff like that. Like he's definitely the guy. And he came back healthy and looks awesome. That's the other part is like we were worried about 29-year-old running backs in fantasy football, but Aaron Jones looks awesome. I was just watching the film. I was just so sad I didn't make that deal earlier because he just looks fantastic, and you can't worry about like some specific numbers when you're like making some of these decisions. You have to have some of the actual on tape evidence to support it, and so I'm super excited to have him going at least into next year. And as for this game, I think he's the only way that the Packers have a chance of winning today is if Aaron Jones gets off to a really hot start and they score like on their first two possessions. And if that's the case, the game will be close. And and in close games, they can go either way.
Right.
When you get down to the end of the game's close, and referee decisions play a big part in that stuff. We've seen that. But I think that's the only way the Packers keep the game close today. So my homer minute is that I'm pretty excited about today because I don't think that's going to happen. I think the Cowboys are on a mission. Like Dak didn't even want to wear his NFC East championship hat gear last week. He's like,
Who cares?
yeah. And yeah, I'm real happy about him. I also want to bring up that the whoever's in charge of the All-Pro voting really fucked up this year. Because Micah Parsons
They
didn't
mess up every year.
Micah Parsons didn't make it's an easy decision. Micah Parsons didn't make first team All Pro somehow.
Well, who was it? Backup for Baltimore Ravens, the quarterback, was it Huntley?
Made the Pro Bowl.
Made the Pro Bowl.
Pro Bowl's different.
Okay.
All Pro is where and that's the thing is like you can mess up the Pro Bowl voting. You can mess up putting people in the Pro Bowl. Nobody cares anymore. You can't mess up All Pros. You have to get those correct. And then it's not like the guys that made the guys that made All Pro were bad players, bad decisions, because we're talking about T.J. Watt and Myles Garrett. But if you look at like week in, week out, what the players did, T.J. Watt missed some time, and
still had those numbers. 'Cause he's a badass.
he had great. Also, he has Alex Highsmith on the other side. And if you're somebody who's making these votes, you should be watching the tape, and you gotta like acknowledge that there's a good portion of his sacks that are just him not even actually rushing the quarterback, but just cutting underneath as Highsmith forces him up in the pocket, and the sack goes to T.J. Watt, but it should be a half a sack. There's
and that's something we'll talk about during the game. But
those two together
Highsmith,
are an incredible tandem.
Absolutely. So now I really want to know, like, what are they going to be? Because Highsmith is going to have to be
Without him, he's
amazing.
not the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. Without like
he's gonna have to
TJ
be
is definitely the
amazing in
better
this
player, but TJ is that much greater because Highsmith is on the other side. And then for for Micah, he's got DeMarcus Lawrence, who's 31 now, and DeMarcus Lawrence at 27 would have made Micah so so much greater that it'd be no question. You'd be looking at like 17 and 18 sacks a year instead of 13 and 14. And that's the thing is, this is his third straight year to start his career with 13 plus sacks. The only other player in history to do that is Reggie White.
So what do you say?
I'm saying he's an all pro.
All right.
Period. Like and the other thing is like TJ Watt and Myles Garrett are both 40 pounds heavier than him.
And better. But anyway,
That's not what the metrics say. Micah Parsons has the most quarterback hurries. He doesn't have the most hits. He has the most quarterback hurries of any of those players. The most pressures.
Dude,
and it's
he
not
is
close.
Great, but
it's
you're
not close.
Comparing
Actually,
him to TJ and Miles, man.
I'm not because he's that much better than them.
Wow. Hot take that I don't agree with.
Micah,
so there you go.
And here's the thing: is you didn't have to put him at edge. Micah could have made All Pro over. You wouldn't pick Micah over Roquan Smith.
Yeah, probably. I mean, it's close.
Yeah,
But
I don't think it's that close. Roquan Smith is a great linebacker, but Micah can do both. The Cowboys don't ask him to. The Cowboys don't ask him to play pass defense anymore. They did in his rookie year. They don't ask him to do it anymore. They ask him to rush
he
the
is
passer all the
absolutely
time.
great, but you're comparing him to two guys that were both in the running for MVP this year. You know what I mean?
Defensive player of the year, not MVP, and so was Micah.
Well, dude, they were even talking about an MVP at some point because there was nobody
Myles
in
Garrett.
the MVP.
Myles Garrett, not
conversation.
TJ.
I know
Yeah.
because we weren't that good, but
Well,
still,
it's no. I don't even
And-
think
and
it's that.
because he
Myles
wasn't
Garrett.
healthy.
Myles Garrett is Myles Garrett's the one that I would keep. It's TJ that I would not have put ahead of Micah.
wow,
And I know that hurts you because you're a Steelers fan.
doesn't make sense, but
It does make sense because TJ only rushes the quarterback.
he is an absolute game changer. So I mean, you have to.
So is Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons is a game wrecker. That's like Micah
good. I'm not
Parsons
saying he's
by
not.
far faces the most double teams of any player in the league.
Really, more than TJ?
Yeah, you can look it up.
What?
And he beats the most double teams. It's crazy,
I'd
dude.
take TJ any day there.
I know
I'm
you
just
make
saying.
because you're a poor manager.
Sure.
There's a reason TJ went at the end of round one.
So, homer minute for the Rams. I'm actually kind of looking forward to this because I'm kind of on the Rams train for the playoffs here, man.
Yeah,
I
me
feel like
too.
you guys are playing good, man. I want to see you guys wreck the world. I want to see it.
So, well, actually, before I get started, Ken, can you real quick throw at me what your game score is for your Cowboys today?
Today, I expect it to be somewhere around 38-17.
Okay. So,
Sorry, I think it's going to be 31-10. Like I'm with him, and I think it's going to be a blowout.
okay. What about Steelers today? What do you think that game
Well,
score is?
tomorrow. Steelers are tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, tomorrow.
But I think that's a who knows, anything goes. Like I want the score to be 17-14 or 10-13, something like that. Like that's what I'm hoping for.
Okay. All right.
And
fair.
I'm thinking it's going to be similar to what we saw from Miami and Kansas City yesterday.
And I feel that. I feel like the Bills are, but I'm going the other way. I think Bills are going to edge them out. In a cold weather game, I think Cowboys are probably going to blow them out. But I'm rooting for Green Bay today.
That's the only way he gets a home game eventually.
Yes, yeah, and that's primarily it.
I get
Okay, and that leads into what I'm about. Where I'm going at, and that is, if the Rams and the 49ers play against each other, regardless of the outcome of that,
Well, if you guys win, you're getting the 49ers.
unless Green Bay wins. So
Like I said, if the Rams win, you're getting the 49ers.
right. Okay, so when that happens, whatever team comes out the other side of that is going to be beat up.
Yep.
And the conference game is going to be a lot easier for the opposing team against either of those teams.
Yeah.
So And I think there's even a stat out there that every team that plays against the Niners loses the following
next
week.
It was that last
Yeah.
year. It was last year the only team to not lose the week after they played the Niners was the Chiefs because they had a bye.
Oh, there you go. That was so. Is it the following 2 years? Then are we saying?
I don't know. I imagine that statistic is not the same this year. Otherwise, we'd be talking about it, how it's been going on for 2 years.
Yeah.
But
Well, somebody said
but
it.
I haven't looked into it. But last year it was undefeated. Like if you played the 49ers last week, you got an L this week.
So that being said, I hope that there's a world where they don't have to meet in the conference until the conference, and they got 2 weeks to recover, right? And so that's the primary reason why I'm rooting for Green Bay. I do believe the Rams are going to beat Detroit by 10 points, or it's going to be like, or we're going to lose. I think it's going to be one of those.
I agree with you, and because Jared Goff has to have an awful game, I think, for you guys to win. He can have a Goffle game for sure.
I mean, we could go blow to blow. I'd be happy to be wrong about that. I'd be happy to win by one, like we've been doing. But
that's going to happen though.
Yeah, I don't either.
Because I think if the Lions come out hot, the Rams' offense is more likely to stumble against the Lions' defense than vice versa. Like, because when the Lions come out hot, they fucking just railroad people.
So
their team, and the thing is, what's Laporta doing? Is Laporta playing tonight?
I don't think so.
Doesn't look like it.
It was very questionable. They are doing everything they can to get him in, and that's for me. That's a big deal. Like if Laporta doesn't play, I'm going to pick the Rams, and if Laporta does play, I'm going to pick the Lions.
Okay,
'cause he's that important to their offense.
But there are some things that everybody has out there to consider. One, Rams have the Super Bowl winning quarterback. Two,
and roster.
And roster.
Half your roster is still, from guys that were on the team.
from a numbers standpoint, or X's and O's, however you want to call it, the Rams have the better defense. And another thing that X factor is Sean McVay sat right next to Jared Goff for so many years now. So did Aaron Donald.
Knows what he's going to do.
And there's that factor.
They know him.
They know him, and they know that and then for the people who are out there wondering, Jared Goff or the Rams, the quarterbacks that give them fits are the ones that are mobile. Jared Goff is not.
Right.
So when Jared Goff gets hit, he gets squeamish. Mm-hmm. He starts messing up, and he's going to take his licks today. So they might come out strong, but I don't think they're going to end strong.
To me, it's your two D tackles. It's Aaron Donald and Kobe Turner, the rookie. If they have a big day today, like, you guys will win. You will win.
There's another. Let me look it up real quick. I want to get this.
And while you're
wrong.
looking that up, just Laporta is expected to play. So that is.
I thought it was trending that way because they originally it was like, oh, he's going to be out for a while, and then on Tuesday it was like, well, we're going to give him as much time as we can. We're going to do everything we can, and then as the week went on, he got a full practice in on Friday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I didn't even see that.
He had a knee brace on. But he was listed as a full participant in practice, and I was like, he's going to play.
And I'll be honest, after watching that injury as it happened, like, I was just hoping it wasn't a season ender, 2-year recovery
Affect next year.
Yeah, like that's what I was thinking. I didn't think there was a possibility he would play this week. Yeah. And now look at him, he's playing.
Tough guy from Iowa,
playing slightly injured, huh?
Dude's tough. I like Sam. You know what? That's one of my. So I feel really. I told Roxana yesterday, I was like, is it weird that I feel like proud watching CJ play so well right now? Because I was just so, demonstrative over the top about, like, what are these guys doing? How are they picking Bryce Young over CJ Stroud? Like, what are you doing? And I was like, am I an idiot? Like, am I an idiot? When I was I was that much on the side of CJ Stroud over Bryce Young, I'm like, am I stupid? Do I not know anything about football? No, it turns out I know a little bit of something about football. I've like, from watching for 35 years, you get an idea of which players look good and which players look less good, and and so it's fun to watch him, CJ succeed, and Sam Laporta succeed over Dalton Kincaid, because everybody was in love with Dalton Kincaid, and I was like, that works in college, but in the NFL, they're going to ask him to block. If you can't block as a tight end, like, you might be cute for fantasy every once in a while, but you are not going to play a big role on your team. and Sam Laporta could do it all. Like, he could blow defensive linemen off the line. He could run people over in the open field. He could make one-handed grabs. He could leap over guys. He ran beautiful routes. He's super fast. He scored, a 50-yard touchdown this year where he was running away from a safety. Like,
a couple of them, I think.
So when I seeing all, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the Dalton Kincaid love, and I was really happy when the Bills jumped in front of the Cowboys because the Cowboys might have taken him.
So real quick, what were the defensive players you mentioned? It was Aaron Donald and who?
Kobe Turner, the rookie.
Okay, yeah. So Kobe Turner, he's already has this 15 quarterback hits, 8 tackles for loss, and 9 sacks, and that tied the record for a rookie defensive tackle.
He's an interior lineman. Yes, he's an interior defensive lineman. Like, he put up Aaron Donald like numbers. Like when Aaron Donald was a rookie, like those types of numbers that make you go, "Whoa, this guy is going to be really good."
So with all those things, coming together, I think the Rams are going to win this by at least 10. It's going to be like 34-24 or something like that.
That's what I'm rooting for, but I can't pick it. I don't think. It's like when I was in the other thing about rewatching the games was the Lions were, I thought, and they got screwed in Dallas. And if they hadn't got screwed in Dallas, they'd be on a long winning streak right now. And to me, they played the most buttoned-down football of any playoff team that I watched.
And there's that other factor, right? You can call it the Y factor, right? The playoffs, the playoffs, and
Right.
and the defense, and that coach is just not smart. You know what I mean?
You're talking about
Campbell.
Campbell? I actually like Campbell a lot.
Yeah, but I didn't say he wasn't likable.
No, I
Said
mean,
he wasn't smart.
I actually.
Playing his starters and getting Sam Laporta injured when he basically didn't. You kind of had number 2 on the line, but didn't
But
really.
they did because the thing is like people. I guarantee you there were more people that picked the Commanders to beat the Cowboys than there were that picked the Giants to pick the Eagles, and the Eagles got smashed by the Giants. So he was halfway there. There's as a fan, I would absolutely not be upset with him going for that number 2 seed. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's just like what we're talking about with Brian. And do you want to see your team lose in the playoffs and get a better draft pick because you don't think they have a very good chance? It's like, we don't think we have a very good chance, but we have a chance at this. Let's go get it.
Well, the reality of it is, it wasn't smart. Regardless of whether the
that's
fans,
not the reality of it.
That is the reality of it.
That's the reality if you're looking back with 2020 vision.
Regardless,
but in the moment, that was
because the Rams sat their players
against the 49ers. The Rams had nothing to gain.
Yeah, they did. They had the 6th seed to gain.
No, they didn't. They
Yes, they did.
They were going to be on the road. They didn't care who they played. The Lions had a chance to get two home games, a second home game.
So that's
not
that's what I'm saying.
That's not the same.
It is the same. You bump a seed or lose a seed.
No,
and they were either going to fall down to a lower seed.
They didn't care if they went to Dallas or Detroit. They didn't care.
Okay, well, the analysts would agree with me that wasn't a very smart thing to do.
And the analysts,
I just like to jump in here. If we're saying Campbell isn't very smart, I'm going back to the decision where they were on the 7-yard line
and
for
went for
2-point conversion and went for it. That
me,
is just dumb.
That's
dumb. I don't understand how you can defend that decision.
Here's how I'll defend it,
please.
Because you have an opportunity right now to make a game-winning play. You're inside your opponent. Your opponent hasn't been able to stop you on this drive.
Was this the same drive he went for 2-3 times?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. No.
And
I'm with Brian on this.
And they scored twice. It just didn't count. So, I don't have a problem with that. The players would have wanted to go for it rather than and everybody is so focused on that part. There was still time on the clock, and the Cowboys still had a timeout in their pocket, and the Lions had already given up over 200 yards to CeeDee Lamb. So no, I don't have a problem with that decision at all. And Brandon Aubrey had kicked multiple 60-yard field goals. You say
you're taking a 25% chance. Why would you do that?
3 times.
How do you know it's 25%?
You're right. It's probably a little less from 7 yards out.
From the 7-yard line,
not a high percentage play.
I agree with you that it wasn't a high percentage play, but there's not a guarantee in kicking the extra point. The Lions have one of the worst kickers in football, and Riley Patterson. I don't know how many extra points he missed this year, but he's been one of the worst kickers in football. Let me finish.
Okay, no, I didn't consider that.
Okay, so there's that. You might miss.
Okay.
That's not a guarantee. Then you're giving the Cowboys the ball with 25 seconds on the clock and a timeout.
Well, they're getting that no matter what. They're getting that either way.
They're getting that either way, but you're going to get the lead. They're going to have to score. It's entirely different. Like that's and if it's look at it this way. If either way they're going to get the ball and possibly beat you, wouldn't you want to be winning the game already?
So if you were in that situation with 7 yards to go,
I
what would you have done?
coach his team. It's hard to say because like the Cowboys while the Cowboys had played kind of like a prevent defense on that drive and kind of just allowed the Lions to go down the field, they had been playing well against them in the second half. And they had made that defensive play that we thought ended the game the drive before with the interception. On the Cowboys side of it, I would probably have just kicked the extra point because I know they can't stop me. I know that if we're going to get the ball and we're going to have an opportunity to beat them because they're not going to be able to stop us. They haven't been able to stop us all game long. The only times that they have stopped us, we've stopped ourselves. Whereas with the Lions, their offense wasn't, they weren't having their best game offensively. So
I agree with them going for two,
and
not from the 7 yard line.
Yeah, I don't know. That's tough to say.
Yeah.
And I mean to bring it around, it's entirely possible that Dan Campbell makes a decision today that costs the team, I suppose.
After this
I don't
conversation,
know.
I really hope that happens.
And what I was getting at was the Rams have the smarter coach. Of the two coaches, the head coaches, the Rams are the smarter coach. So,
yeah, but I mean, isn't that true of like most of the time?
yeah, well,
Sean McVay is a football genius. So, like, if you want to just talk about the smarter coach, like but he also does some silly things that you don't agree with, especially when it comes to burning timeouts. So it's just as possible that Sean McVay leaves you
and probably will do that
in the last few minutes of the
this
game because you don't have the timeouts because
It's-
he used them in the third quarter.
it's actually more likely that Sean will burn a timeout like frivolously more so than we see an obvious dumb play out of Campbell.
I agree.
I'm looking forward to that happening today.
And
we'll see both. Yeah,
but I think it lends insight. Those decisions lends insight on like how he's thinking. I think playoff football is a little bit more finesse. It's not as much bang bang, which is what Campbell's style seems to be. Like, let me just hurt you. What was his quote? I'm gonna bite your kneecaps on the way up.
We're going to drag him out to sea.
Yeah,
we're going to strangle him and drag him out to sea. That was him, right? Yeah.
But we're gonna see. We're gonna see.
If we could just drag him out a little further, we could just drag him out a little further. The Hard Knocks last year, like I think that Dan Campbell has his hand like directly on the pulse of his team.
I agree with that.
And there was nobody from a man who disagreed with Dan Campbell's decision after that game. Like that, I feel like that is a team that is together, and so like.
Oh, you're talking about the team.
Yeah,
your team did disagree with him going for two.
Yeah, so like I don't, and that's the only time I think that you have to worry about stuff like that is if
because then they might like run the ball in instead of taking a knee.
Yeah, exactly. You might lose your team. But if you're making decisions that your team agrees with and they're behind you. It wasn't a bad decision.
No,
that was the right call.
Campbell was the one who was the intermediate head coach for the Dolphins, and they went straight to being physical practices, right? Am I wrong in thinking that? That was about 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago?
Did he get an interim tag? I can't.
They fired the Dolphins. Fired the Dolphins head coach, and in his first week, they went to like up and hit, and I forget what that drill's called, but you're laying on the ground, and you go up. You get to your feet and then you ram each other. I forget what that drill's called, but it was like the first thing they did in practices, and everybody thought he was nuts for doing that. Like, hey, we need to get back to being physical.
We're playing football.
And then they won that following weekend, and then they went on their losing streak, and he didn't get the head coaching position.
I feel like the game does need to get more physical, and because to me, like they've kind of like softened the game. And created more injuries. Guys are more injured today, it feels like, on a week-to-week basis than they were 20 years ago.
And I know what you mean there, and you might even be right, but I don't think that's the way the NFL is going to go. I think they're going to continue sliding in the non-contact.
Yeah,
direction.
and I don't like it.
Yeah.
Just put flags on them.
Well, that's what we're doing in the Olympics, right?
And I mean, and I'm serious because I'm honestly, I'm dead serious because I'm so tired of seeing. It's not they're not tackling. It's not like they're playing football out there. They're not playing tackle football out there because they don't know how to tackle. Like I'm watching guys run up, and what was. Somebody got hurt on this play, and maybe it was the Hawkinson play. I can't remember what play it was, but the player who came up to hit him was a safety. Runs, gets close to the point of contact, and literally turns his back and falls down. That was his tackling form. Was to run at the guy, and before getting to him, turn his back and fall like he was throwing a boulder at the guy's knees.
The hell?
That's not football.
Right.
Okay, so
I'm gonna look that up. I'm gonna look that up, and I'm gonna at this guy. Get your fucking pussy ass up. Look at the guy you're tackling and hit him. Be a man. That was some girl shit, and you could hurt somebody like that. You fuck.
So 2015. It was in 2015. And it was called the Oklahoma. It was an infamous Oklahoma drill that he got him straight at doing, where they line up for full contact, full speed, one-on-one drills in a small confined area. That is the description of it. So that being said, one final point. I was really hoping that the Rams would sign some sort of kicker somewhere, right?
You did. Yep.
No, we re-signed.
You got my boy Brett Maher.
We re-signed. And maybe he'll work through it. I don't know, but
He gets hot and he has a booming leg. He can nail him from 60, and when he's hot, he's really, really good.
so we need him to get hot. And but I mean, I would have, if they would have just looked at the lesser league and pulled at least one person who was just
Look at a
consistent.
soccer player.
That's I don't care if they can kick it from 50, 60. Just be able to kick it
You
from
want
40
somebody really good under pressure right now. Yeah, it's the playoffs. It's all about pressure.
and get the PATs. I mean, we missed a PAT against the
on
the
that
Giants.
note,
Who was the last team to play? The Giants. So
I was really happy that Brandon Aubrey got
Niners.
his miss and his blocked field goal out of the way last week
Yeah.
against Washington. He had his perfect season
That's
going
how
on.
it works.
So now we don't have to go into the playoffs with every time he goes to kick hasn't missed all year.
go miss
Like,
your kick.
yeah.
Go miss your kick.
Yeah.
Just go miss. We don't want you to make this one.
I love the superstitions. That's funny.
So that being said,
Well, hey. The 1998 Vikings were lined up to go to the Super Bowl with I think it was like a 39-yard field goal. Sends them to the Super Bowl. Gary Anderson hadn't missed all year.
and
hadn't
fucking shanked
missed
it.
all year.
Yep.
Shanked it. Falcons win in overtime. Vikings never make it to the Super Bowl. Randy Moss doesn't go to the Super Bowl with the Vikings as rookie, but he should have. And the Vikings probably would have won that game.
Hilarious.
Yeah, that is seriously
kickers.
like nobody ever talks about them, but that 1998 Vikings team is one of the most dominant teams I've ever seen. And the only reason nobody ever talks about them is because they lost.
They didn't get there.
They lost 2 games all year by a combined 6 points. They lost 27-24 at Tampa Bay early in the year, and they lost 27-24 in the championship game.
The NFL is not fair.
No, and I think and I believe they had a point differential of like over 200.
Wow.
It was insane. Yeah,
So moving on, I want to talk about some of
kickers are important.
this other stuff that we've been doing throughout the year. Henry versus Pollard was that a season long bet?
That was a season-long bet.
How did we do on that?
I lost that one.
Took that one down.
So I owe a Bowmore for that.
Okay,
But there's another one.
So winner, chicken dinner, Brian on that one. So we'll go ahead and put Brian's name here. All right, for receivers, Tony versus Moore.
I don't even know. That one's so bad that it should just get erased. We should actually, you know what? We should both take a shot for having a piece in it. Are you down for that?
Which Moore is that?
Sky Moore.
Oh, my
That's
God.
And they were both so bad.
And
Sky
I
Moore
took
was hurt.
Tony, yeah. Because
So
I
I
thought
think
Tony
he wins.
might be okay.
I think he wins, but I don't. But should it be considered a win if your player averages less than 3 fantasy points a game?
Well, when the other guy averages 0, yeah.
Well, I think that's part of the
there's
bet,
no
though,
winners.
right? You guys were going at it with
No, we
receivers that
thought-
we
no,
don't know really
They were
so
garbage
much.
players, yeah.
Like,
But we
and then
thought that we didn't expect either of them. Like I think we would have picked either of them over Rashee Rice at the start of the
I
season.
think we should let What a Busy be the final judge.
Right?
What do you think, Bezzy?
I would have picked Tony, but not Moore over Rice.
Do
Sky
they
Moore
both need to
started.
take a shot for their terrible fucking call, or does the loser have to own up to that one? Tony versus Moore.
I still like Sky
While we're
Moore
waiting
as
for
a player
Bezzy's
better than I like
response.
Tony.
Huh?
I said I still like Sky Moore as a player better than I like Tony.
See, that's why you deserve the shot. That's why we made the bet.
So moving on to Pollard versus Barkley.
I
that-
won that one.
Huh?
That one's funny. I won that one.
Okay, so Bezzy says you guys both owe a shot for that one, for that terrible call.
Thank you,
And
Bezzy.
then
Appreciate you,
Brian
buddy.
won that, or Ken won that one.
I
Wait,
won.
what?
I won that one by 1 spot.
Wait. Pollard beat Barkley?
By 1 spot.
Are you serious?
Barkley missed 2 games.
Oh my God!
And you never want to go
Yeah.
points per game.
Yeah,
You always.
This,
you
this
always.
is where we should both take a shot.
No,
My
it's not,
God.
'cause there was-
Come on,
no,
I
it's
won
not.
that bet.
That's
You
no,
know
you
it.
didn't, because they were both top 15 running backs. So that's
But who would
that's
you rather
that's
have
insane.
in your lineup?
Oh, I'm not
Barkley, every time.
Oh, not every time.
Oh yeah.
Otherwise, it wouldn't have been that close.
Okay.
All right, that feels bad. Go ahead.
Should feel bad.
Okay, Dotson
Tony
versus
Pollard-
McLaurin.
I won that one.
Yeah. Wait, what? Who?
McLaurin versus Dotson.
Jahan Dotson? Mm-hmm. I took Jahan Dotson over Terry
Yeah,
McLaurin.
you thought
No,
that's
no,
fine.
Brian took Dotson. You took McLaurin.
No, there's no way. I
That's-
took
no,
McLaurin.
there is definitely a way, because and here's how. I was just.
He's like looking at the board. Wait, what the
Here,
what?
makes no sense. Calm down. I was just about to defend myself, and I'll defend you the same way. Okay. Before the season, I had Jahan Dotson, and I was like, what the hell was wrong with me? I had my rankings for receivers. I had Jahan Dotson top 15.
Right.
And I was like, what the hell? That's crazy. And then I heard Andy talking on the Footballers about their biggest busts of the year, and he brought up Jahan Dotson because to him, Jahan Dotson was a top 12 receiver, was going to be, and I was like, oh, okay. So I could definitely,
And that's why you
and
had Dotson.
You're
There's
an Andy
no
guy.
way.
You are the Andy guy. We've talked about this.
I am the McLaurin guy. I love McLaurin.
I do too.
I would never bet against
I do
Scary
too.
Terry.
It's just you always pick him over guys I wouldn't pick him over.
There's
And you
no
always
way
make
I'd
me
make
out
that.
to be the McLaurin
I
villain.
guarantee
So this
100%
actually feels
I was
really
McLaurin
good
on that.
This feels really good because like I'm sure. Do you have McLaurin in?
So this
Dynasty?
was
Okay.
a bet made in season 1 or week 1. So if we really need to, we can go back and like
Listen
Yeah,
to it.
I
Listen to
guarantee you I took
We
McLaurin
should
on
listen
that.
to it. Let's
No,
listen to
so
it live.
so we'll,
I would
we'll
bet
leave
$100
that
on
one.
that
We'll
right
leave
now.
that one blank. Maybe I inputted it wrong. I could have inputted it wrong.
I'll go back and
Yeah.
listen to it. We'll find out. We'll get a
I would bet
ruling.
serious money on that.
We'll get a ruling because this is actually, and I swear I'm really hoping that he did pick Dotson now. So
There's no way.
see, it keeps making it better.
It's just not possible.
You're making it better.
So moving off of that, we'll find out and get the answer hopefully by next week. Playoff. So at the beginning of the season, when we have no information other than the previous season, we make our playoff bets. It's the second year in a row, and I remember this. Ken was ready to go, and me and Brian completely spaced on it, and we forgot that we did this. And after talking about it, it was like, oh yeah, we do this. And so we made our picks at the very end, I think, of that episode
Of week one.
Of week 1,
Yeah.
who was going to the playoffs. Do you guys remember who you picked?
I do.
Nope.
I do.
okay.
And actually, well, I did. I mostly remembered, but I also like cheated a little bit because I listened to this thing recently.
Okay.
And I know I had the Bills winning the AFC East. I had the Patriots and Steelers coming out of the North. I think I also had the Bengals coming out of the North, though. But
Bengals.
super interesting is in that episode, I brought up the Browns. And I
And you didn't take him?
and I was like, I could definitely see the Browns making a run to the playoffs. But I was all over the AFC North because of their schedule. And I was like, this team, and I said this division's going to beat each other up all year long, and they did. And so that felt good. I had the Titan. We both had the Titans coming out of the South, which felt bad.
You actually did not.
I didn't?
No.
I had
So
the
I'll,
Jags?
I'll read them to you. So AFC picks, yours were Bills, Steelers, Jags, Chiefs, Jets, Bengals, and Ravens. Brian's was Jets, Steelers, Titans, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Bengals.
Wait, read mine again. I'm sorry.
Bills, Steelers, Jags, Chiefs, Jets, Bengals, and Ravens.
Okay, so I had 2 wrong.
You had,
Jets and
you had 3
Bengals.
wrong. Jags, Jets, and Bengals.
Oh, okay. Oh, I had the Jags. That's right. Nobody had the Texans. Yeah.
Yeah, and for NFC, your NFC picks were Cowboys, Lions, Falcons, 49ers, Eagles, Seahawks, Vikings.
So again, 2. Yeah. Okay.
So you
that's
missed
not
3.
bad.
We all missed 6.
Yeah,
We
okay.
all missed 6.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, it was pretty neat because I thought I didn't
Division. How do we do on division winners though?
see that. I don't know. That I
Because
don't know.
well, so I think we picked the Falcons, but we picked the Cowboys, the Lions, and the 49ers, right?
You picked Cowboys, Lions, 49ers, and Eagles, Seahawks, Vikings, and Falcons. Yeah. So
Oh, it
what?
doesn't
You're
say-
wrong
oh,
about
it
your.
doesn't- It doesn't say the division.
Yeah, I didn't have a break. It was like again, it was made in haste, and so I didn't have it broken down like that.
Seahawks and Vikings and Falcons did not make it.
Yeah, and then for Brian, you picked the Jets, Steelers, Titans, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Bengals, and the Jets, Titans, and Bengals missed. And
But
then-
you know what? All those NFC teams that I missed on, they were all alive in Week 18.
yes, they were.
Jets messed us all up. Jags messed us all up.
Aaron
Bengals
Rodgers,
messed
the
us all
Jets'
up.
offensive line owes us.
Yeah.
The Jets' offensive line they owe a lot of apologies.
Right. They really do.
those guys really screwed a lot of people this year.
So it looks like we fairly all missed. I picked the Giants to go. None of you guys picked the Rams to go, and I did. So those were kind of
Hey,
like the
there you go.
differences.
I remember saying that I liked the Rams. We just didn't. We didn't think they were going to make the push yet.
We thought it was going to take 2 years, and it
Yes.
only took 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, my whole contention on that was we have Sean McVay. It's like we have.
But
Sean
I,
got you
but
that
I
shirt,
remember
man.
saying that like it shouldn't be surprising if the Rams are good offensively because of what we've seen from Sean McVay, and now the team is loaded with players that he's drafted for his system, and we've seen what he was able to do with guys he inherited. So
Right, and then now it's kind of seems like Raheem Morris is getting his foot like grounded. He's starting to find footing,
and just as he's becoming a hot coaching candidate again.
Yeah.
and he's already had an opportunity to coach.
We'll just take Belichick.
And so, and like, I don't, if I yeah, there you go. Yeah, Belichick, that would be awesome. Belichick and McVay.
Dynasty.
Seriously.
I don't know if they could work together, though.
Why not? And that,
Two
and that-
alphas, man.
I'm wondering about
Belichick,
that.
But Belichick is like he's if you've paid attention to him over the last couple of years, he's really like softened up. Like at a time where you'd think that maybe he would have hardened because people are making talking about all the Brady stuff. It was really Brady, this, that, and the other. They're not doing very well. Anytime you see him on camera and stuff like that, he's joking. I don't know if you guys saw he did College Game Day in December on a Saturday
heard about
morning.
that, yeah.
He went to somebody's wedding or something like that.
He went to a Halloween party thrown by.
Yeah, dude. So
Ma?
like, and
Can't remember.
And so he's letting a little bit more of that show on the surface over the last couple of years. But all accounts from the players are that he's a really fun guy to be around. Like he's a serious guy. He takes his job seriously, but he's a funny guy and he's really smart and he cares about his players.
Well, I think that the two go hand in hand. Being smart and being funny go hand in hand.
I agree.
I think I could see a world where that happens. I don't know if he's got if he's got the awareness to realize that I don't think he's a head coach anymore. You know what I mean? Like he's just not like the game. Oh, cool. the game went by him a little bit, and I am more on that side of the fence where Brady helped a lot, and
I think it matters both sides, dude. It really does. Like I don't think you can have a dynastic run like that without that quarterback, but you also can't do it without the
A coach.
Yeah.
Like it was both of them being in place for so long.
You're never going to be able to pry those two apart. Like they
No.
worked together for so long during that run. I mean, that was just a magical thing that they did together, and that's you know, you're never going to be like, oh, it was this, it was that. It just they were together, and that's why it happened. That's
And
the way I see it.
you know, Brady did win a Super Bowl without him.
I,
So that of the two,
He did, but
There was
he
one
also-
that did it
but
without
it's
the
also-
other.
But it's
That's
also,
true.
but it's
You know,
also
so-
it's different for like because if a coach goes to another team and tries to replicate that, he has to tear the whole thing.
yes, yeah.
down. Whereas
But he didn't go to another team though.
so I guess we'll know if Bill goes somewhere and you know in the
Has
next
success.
2 years has a huge
We can
amount
put
of
it to bed.
success or doesn't. I mean,
Sure.
I think that's kind of your
And he,
tiebreaker there.
from what I understand, he's not done.
No,
he's not done.
It sounds like he's
so,
going somewhere
So
else,
we're
though.
gonna see him again.
And since we're talking about that, we can talk about that now.
Yeah,
since there's
let's do it.
not, you know,
That's
so,
why I did that. Let into it.
Thank you. That's awesome. It's one of my favorite things to talk about right now. Because I'm terrified that he's going to go to Washington.
He might go to you guys.
And that's what
If
I
you
want.
guys lose today,
oh yeah,
if
we
you guys lose
today,
against
we're gonna
Green
make a
Bay,
push. if we lose today, we are going to make a push for Bill Belichick for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's hilarious.
And it would be great because, like, once upon a time, he almost became the Cowboys coach before they hired Barry Switzer. He ran. It was the off season where he got fired from the Browns, and Jimmy Johnson had left the Cowboys, and he happened to run into Jerry Jones at an airport, in Mexico or something like that, and just briefly said something to him, and he had wished, and Jerry and he have both been on the record, saying they wish they had pushed a little harder, Jerry wished he'd paid attention a little more and dug into it, but he has already had his eyes on Barry Switzer, and Bill wished he'd been a little more persistent, because he didn't go on to be a head coach for another 4 years, 5 years, 6 years.
wow.
It was a long time. He went back to work with Parcells, and he was with Parcells for the Super Bowl run in New England in '96, and he was with Parcells with the Jets, and he was supposed to take over. And it's weird because I remember that too. I remember when it was all crazy when Parcells retired and Belichick was just supposed to take over. He was technically the head coach for like a day or 2 days or something like that, and then he took the New England job. But yeah, it would be a long time coming if he ended up in Dallas. And obviously, I kind of like Mike McCarthy, and so I don't want to see that happen to him.
Well, and it would take you losing today for that to
It
happen.
would, but I mean, shoot, if a loss is all we had to endure to have possibly the greatest coach of all time come take over our team when Dan Quinn's probably on his way out the door this offseason anyway, that's probably a win for the organization. But it's also this Cowboys team is definitely good enough to win. They're good enough to win. So it would be disappointing to see them not get it done.
And just to bring it, how old is Bill right now?
72.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, so he's got 5
That's-
years.
yeah, that's
he's on the
something to
he's
keep
on
in
the
mind.
5-year plan. But Jerry Jones has been on that plan for a while, and Jerry Jones wants to win now. He wants to, I really feel like Jerry Jones is just hanging on for one more.
He dies an hour after you guys win the next Super Bowl.
I don't know.
The next Super Bowl you win.
Yeah, he'll just announce that he's stepping down and Steven's taking over, the primary role, and they'll announce that Will McClay is taking over as the general manager, and I feel like that's the reason that Will McClay, who I've talked about him before, but he doesn't get talked about a lot except for when we get into the offseason. What's going to happen is over the next 3 weeks, teams are going to lose a bunch of coordinators, and they're going to lose parts of their player development and stuff like that. And then people are going to start talking about Will McClay from the Cowboys getting a job as a team president or something like that because he's that good. And I really think that's what's going on is that Jerry's just going, as soon as we win one more, you can have your job. You can have your title. You can have all. But they pay him. He's the highest.
Right.
I believe that Will McClay is paid higher than any other football executive.
So is 5 years enough to rebuild
Absolutely.
and take a team to the Super Bowl?
Absolutely.
And so if he doesn't go to the Cowboys, where's he go?
Well, that's why I'm terrified he's going to go to Washington, and the reason I'm
possible.
scared is because the. Hold
Washington doesn't even have an identity right now. You can call them the Commanders. You can call them. They've been called the Red. Like
until they get a quarterback, man, they're just in hell.
And so here's why I think it's super interesting. The Commanders just hired the 49ers assistant GM, who spent 6 years in New England, about 10, 12 years ago somewhere. He was part of.
And they got along, Bill and this guy.
Yes.
Okay.
They worked together for 6 years.
Yeah.
So that's one piece, and then also, if you look at the draft board, the Commanders pick one spot in front of the Patriots.
He doesn't even pick what he needs. He picks what the Patriots need.
That would be
he takes their quarterback. Like he gets his quarterback, then they can have their quarterback.
Gotcha. I want to see if Raheem Morris leaves. I mean, obviously, hold on to the guy from a loyalty perspective. Just the guy helped you out. Hold on to him. But if he does leave, I wouldn't mind seeing Bill Belichick check his ego and be like, I only got 5 years left. I'll just do this defense thing. But if that doesn't happen and the Cowboys lose, then I can see them picking him up. The Cowboys win. I think it's kind of a roll.
Yep,
of dice
I could definitely see
point.
Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels rolling into Dallas next year. If the Cowboys lose this week or next week. It's not just this week. It's this week or next week.
You think next week too?
They can't lose next week either.
Okay.
Next week's you have to win this week. If this week, you're for sure fired.
Right.
And next week is something unlucky has to happen to you during the game, and maybe you'll keep your job. But next, the divisional round is the round the Cowboys have to get past. That's the monkey right now. They haven't been to the NFC Championship game.
There you go.
Since the end of the '95 season. They have to go to that. Man, 49er fans, they're so high and mighty, but they haven't won the Super Bowl in exactly one more year than the Cowboys have.
Right. Yeah.
But they've been to 7 NFC Championship games in that time. The Cowboys have been to 0.
So let me ask you something that more pertains to, and maybe you have this number in your head. It wouldn't surprise me. How often what is the trade like? Nah, that's the wrong word too. Whenever the Cowboys go up against Green Bay, what's the number look like? Have they won more games, lost more games?
So that's another reason I'm excited that the Cowboys are playing the Packers today, because while they were kind of a boogeyman when Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback, they were our whipping boys when Brett Favre was the quarterback, and the Cowboys would just torch the Packers on the way to the Super Bowl every year. They beat the Packers in 3 straight playoffs in the 90s.
But not Aaron Rodgers?
They did not beat Aaron Rodgers at all.
At all, okay.
They did not beat Aaron Rodgers at all.
And Green Bay, you guys played Green Bay this year.
And lost to him in spectacular ways, too. Like the Des Bryant catch that now today would have been a catch.
Yeah.
Okay.
The non-catch catch.
The non-catch catch that by today is in 2014 not a catch. 2024 is a catch. Okay. Then there was one of the most this. I feel like I still have nightmares about this particular play. The Aaron Rodgers escaping a sack, rolling to his left, and throwing a 40-yard dart to a tight end. Oh God, I hate it. It was Richard Rodgers, I think it was, that caught the pass on the other side, and then Mason Crosby kicking a 55-yard field goal to beat us at the end of the 2016 season. But this is the 3rd consecutive year the Cowboys have made the playoffs. That hasn't happened since their Super Bowl run. They haven't made the playoffs in 3 consecutive seasons since then. It's been it was during the Jason Garrett era, after they got past the rough start at the beginning, where they failed 3 consecutive years to win a de facto NFC Championship game on the last week of the season, and they literally lost to all 3 of their division opponents. They lost in Week 17 for 3 consecutive years. They lost to the Giants, the Eagles, and the Commanders to fail to win the NFC Championship game and miss the playoffs. And after that, they made it every other year. In 2014, won a playoff game. 2016, they didn't win. They had the 1 seed. 2018, won a playoff game. and then now we have Mike McCarthy. And in the Mike McCarthy era, like the first season we didn't make it, and this is 3 consecutive playoff runs.
Gotcha. Okay.
And it's also 3 consecutive seasons of 12 wins, which is a big deal.
Yeah.
So
No, and high expectations all 3 seasons. So
Agreed.
we'll see if they meet them this year. Good luck to you.
thank you.
So, of those 3 seasons, who you have coming back into the playoffs with you? Obviously, Dak Prescott. Was CeeDee Lamb there for all 3?
I believe so. Yeah.
CeeDee Lamb was there for all 3. Who else?
The majority of the team.
Majority team. Okay.
This is Micah's 3rd season. And that's another thing.
That's good. That's good,
This
'cause-
Cowboys roster is they're veterans. You know, Tyron Smith has been on the team since 2011. Zach Martin and Tank Lawrence have been on the team since 2014. Dak's been there since 2016.
So is this kind of the end of your window then?
No, because Dak's 30. So you figure that there's another solid like 6 to 8 years of Dak. CeeDee's 24. Micah Parsons is 24. Deron Bland's 23. Trayvon Diggs is 24.
And this is one of the reasons why I feel like
the offensive line's old though. Tyler Smith is young, and Tyler Smith made the All-Pro list this year. Not Tyron, Tyler Smith. And he's the Cowboys' 2nd year left tackle. He's the future of the offensive line. So we talked a bit about this on the way, like how I would have not signed Terrence Steele to that huge deal, and I would have picked like a day 2 right tackle to take over for him or something like that. I probably would have taken DeJuan Jones higher than he went, and that would have been my replacement. That's another reason, is because they need the youth injection. Like Terrence Steele he'd be a bridge guy. He's like 27, 28 years old at the end of this deal. You know, he's going to be a 32-year-old average tackle. You know, that's not like when you're going to lose Tyron Smith and Zach Martin over the next 2 to 3 years. That's not where you want to be. You want to have a more youthful, possibly better player. So that's where I'd worry about if I, as a Dallas fan, is like if they're not able to rebuild the offensive line. But typically that's one of the easier things to rebuild. We've seen it over. Like the quarterback is the thing you can get wrong over and over and over again. Getting a good edge rusher is tough. Like getting one of those top 5 guys is tough, and they have one, and they have a good quarterback. And they have a top 5 wide receiver. So like building the rest of the meat and potatoes pieces, like they should be able to keep that going for a while.
So that being said, I think you obviously are going in with more experience in Green Bay, and it's like I don't know how many of those Green players have actually been in that situation.
Green Bay
before.
is the youngest playoff team in 50
There you go.
years. You know who the other team was?
What year?
Won 4 Super Bowls together too.
Oh, back in the 70s. Okay.
Yes, that was the youngest team before was the 73 Steelers, who were 1 year before they won their first Super Bowl. So, and the Packers are loaded, like they are loaded. Like it's so.
If they can put that together, they're
and
gonna be good in
watching
the future.
and watching their film, like if I'm a Packers fan right now, I want Christian Watson to come back today and have a big game so we can trade him.
Really?
They don't need him. They're loaded at wide receiver.
Right.
That was the biggest thing that I saw, other than Aaron Jones in their offense, was that they have several guys. Like I actually think Dontavian Wicks might be the best. Like actually have the highest ceiling as a receiver on their team. I really like Jaden Reed. I think he's got he's got a chance to have like a Brandon Cooks like career. But I think Dontavian Wicks has the highest ceiling. Like he has, because he runs all the routes. He's willing to go in the middle, and he can run people over. He can run away from people. I like him. I think he's really good. I like their other guys too. I think Romeo Dobbs is going to be like a Tyler Boyd type guy. He's just he's glue where you can just count on him all the time.
I guess that's how I see it. Is that they're going to be all kind of irrelevant fantasy wise players. Like
they might be.
Christian Watson is the only one out of the bunch that I feel like can be a fantasy relevant.
And that's not important. That's not important. to winning football games.
Okay,
that's not
yeah,
important.
and I tend to come at things from fantasy perspective, but
I want to and my way of looking at things from a fantasy perspective is almost more like just long view dynasty. Like I want players who I know are going to be a part of their team, a big part of their team. And like if you look at the success that their receiver core has had without him, he's not a necessary part of their team to me. Like there's nothing that their offense couldn't do over the time.
So they have somebody else that can stretch the field the way Christian Watson does?
They have 3 guys. Like
not with that speed though.
Yes, they do. They do. Like it's like Heath.
I feel like I want to make a 3-season-long bet.
Yeah, I don't think Christian Watson will be a Packer for longer than next year.
But he will be the best receiver of the bunch.
I don't think so at all. I actually expect Jaden Reed to be the best receiver of the bunch. Like in terms of fantasy, I think he'll have the best fantasy finish next year. But Dontavian Wicks has that ability. Like he's the.
And what round did he go in?
God, 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I have doubt in those kind of players. I mean, they absolutely can
You
come
know what
on
round-
and do something.
I'm sorry.
But man, the odds are against him.
Do you know what round Antonio Brown came from?
I believe it's 6th.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you know what round Stephon Diggs came from?
It was late, but I don't remember.
Round 6.
Okay.
Like so, to me, it doesn't matter.
I mean, it absolutely can happen, but those are the exceptions.
And
to
like,
the
do
rule.
you know where Tyreek Hill got drafted?
He
didn't. I don't think he did actually. Like he was Tyreek Hill. It was either like a day 3 pick or didn't get picked.
Wow.
He was
I'm surprised that doesn't
he
get
joined the
talked about more.
team as
That's
a
crazy.
kick returner.
That's crazy.
They talked about it in the
No wonder
broadcast.
he's got such a chip on his
They
shoulder.
talked about it in the
I love it.
broadcast last night. They said they were saying Andy Reid went to him. He joined like it was probably like the first time he met Andy Reid. Andy Reid asked him, "Hey, can you do anything besides return kicks?" and he was like, "Yeah, you know, I could play running back. I could be receiver. I could be your best receiver, something like that." And then and Andy Reid said, and you know, we put him at receiver, and within 2 weeks he was our best receiver. So these things happen. You know, like you just gotta it's really difficult to properly evaluate these guys until they get on the field and play against other NFL players. Like it is so hard to see if they are actually going to pop. And the only actual way you can evaluate that in college is when you're watching 2 like Division I Power 5 conference teams playing against each other at the end of the year for something important. That is really like the only time in college that you get an actual good evaluation of whether or not a player is going to be able to perform in the pros, because that's when you see like of the 22 players on the field, 18 of them are going to go in the top for first 2 rounds. You know what I'm saying? So it's difficult to get an evaluation of some of these guys that go to smaller schools, you know? Anyway, I like the Packers receivers a lot. I went into watching them thinking that I was going to be saying something like that the Packers were missing Christian Watson, but that was one thing that I didn't even think of until probably like the game against probably the Bears game, where I was like, oh yeah, they haven't had Christian Watson. Because he was throwing up dimes to Jaden Reed, like he's hit guys all over the place. And actually, one guy that I'm super impressed with their team is Tucker Kraft. Yeah. Man, he's a football player. I like watching him play football. He's a dangerous tight end.
So I need some advice. I've never worn the poop hat before. Like, how do you get the headphones on with the poop hat?
It's tough. It's part of it feels like it's part of the punishment. It feels like because it changes the way that everything sounds. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that last week or 2 weeks ago when I wore that thing. Yeah, you can't get it over that. You have to put it behind and like angle it.
Aye.
You shouldn't. Yeah, shouldn't make these bad decisions.
One time.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. I guess we should talk about some games. Huh?
Should we? Okay, yeah. So up first, let me see. I didn't.
So, how about we recap our picks from yesterday. How about I'll tell you what? Why don't we read our DraftKings lineups, and that way people can catch up with us and feel our pain, and then we can talk about yesterday's games, and then lead into today's games and tomorrow's.
All right.
Mine's real quick. The only thing that you need to catch up with me on is I started the Houston defense yesterday. Feeling pretty good about that.
Ooh, how many points did they score?
21.
Jeez. All right. I can go ahead and go first if you're not ready.
I'm trying.
Go for it.
I think this is it right here. Yeah. Okay. I'm ready. All right. At quarterback, I've got Jared Goff for 6,200. At running back, I've got Kyron Williams at 7,300 and Aaron Jones at 6,300. At wide receiver, I've got CeeDee Lamb at 9K. I've got Amon-Ra St. Brown at 8K.
Oh my God. Okay, we got some cheap players coming up.
And and then there's, to me, I don't understand how this guy's so cheap. I've got Demarcus Robinson at 3,600. That is the mistake on the slate to me. Like you look back over the last 6 weeks and he hasn't scored less than 10 PPR points. And he's getting end zone targets. Like they're looking for him. Like they're running plays for him. Anyway, I've got Jamison Williams at 3,500, and he's one of my favorite plays. I'm actually getting real hot and bothered about Jamison Williams after watching the last 4 weeks of tape. They're starting to get him involved in the intermediate areas of the field as well, and he's got some talent. Like he's so fast. He is so fast. Players his size shouldn't be that fast. Like, he's like 6 foot, 6'1", something like that. And so he can go up over you and get the ball, and he can run right by you. He is just blazing fast. And so if Laporta hadn't played today, I'd have just been like, there's no way he doesn't have a lights out game. But, and so since Laporta is playing today, it's important for people to know, fade Josh Reynolds and play Jamison Williams if you're looking for, because Josh Reynolds was 3,800, Jamison Williams is 35. With Laporta in the lineup, Reynolds is less likely to see targets, and Jamison Williams, like I said, watching the last few weeks, they are scheming plays for him. They are trying to get the ball in his hands because he's a special playmaker. So I like him for 3,500.
All right.
My punt play of the weekend is tight end, and that's K. Dotton.
Okay.
But he's playing at Philly, or they're playing at home against Philly, who's just been awful against tight end. And then I played.
How much is he?
He was 3,100.
Okay, that's a good bargain.
And then I played the Texans defense for 2,700.
Nice. Yeah, that looks genius now. Shoot. Let's see. I went with Joe Flacco as my bargain basement quarterback.
What did he score yesterday?
18.5. So he did okay.
What was his cost?
His cost
Had to have been like 55 or something, or
6,000 basically.
Okay, that's good.
61.
He
3x'd. He's fine. Pacheco and Najee Harris are my running backs. Pacheco did okay with 15.8.
You're happy with that?
Yep. Najee Harris in the snow. I'm hoping that he's our go-to guy there. It seems like he's more the back this week than Warren will be.
Over the last month, he definitely had retaken the number one role.
And then we come to the strength of my team here. I love my wide receivers with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Puka Nacua. And then I could not afford CeeDee Lamb, so I went with the bargain basement Brandon Cooks.
And that's a good one. Brandon Cooks, much like Demarcus Robinson, is getting schemed up for. The Cowboys have actually scored on the same play, the same exact route with Brandon Cooks 3 consecutive weeks. And it's gotten easier every time he's done it.
Wow.
Like he scored that spectacular touchdown at the end of the Dolphins game. Okay. Then he made another great catch at the end of the Lions game to score on the same route. And then he was wide open against the Commanders when he scored it in week 18. So the Cowboys are running a corner route to Brandon Cooks. So like you watch for it once they get inside about the 20. They like to line Cooks up in the slot. They'll line someone up outside of him, and then they'll run that guy in motion. And so they're looking for man, and if they get man coverage, so if the guy in motion, if he travels with the receiver, you'll see Brandon Cooks score a touchdown on a corner route today.
All right. Well, let's see it. At tight end, I went with Njoku. He scored 16.3, so he had a pretty decent game.
He actually dropped a couple of big plays. He dropped a touchdown for sure. Like it was a long one. It was like it was funny because like him and the Texans defender both whiffed on putting their hands up and going for the ball, but it was like one of them should have made the play.
My flex position, I went with Demarcus Robinson to save some money, 3,600. Like I say, he's kind of the free square this week, it seems like.
Yeah.
And then defense, I unfortunately went with the Dolphins to save some money. I thought maybe in the cold game there, and their defense has actually been averaging a pretty decent points per game, but 2 points yesterday sucked. So
They're just
that's a weakness.
They just fell apart at the end of the year, physically. Their team just completely fell apart at the end of the year physically, like with Tyreek being hurt, Waddle going out, Mostert going down, and their defense was actually worse. They had worse injuries on their defense with losing Jalen Phillips and Bradley Chubb and Luke Van Geekel. Like they were the Walking Dead yesterday in Kansas City, and then having to play in that cold weather. Yeah. Like I did not give them much of a chance yesterday. But that being said, the Chiefs didn't really do anything to impress me yesterday either. Yeah. They did what they were supposed to do. I think they did what we expected them to do. I don't have any stronger feelings about them going forward.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like the Chiefs are going to go super far this year. Okay, that was my lineup. Do you have one together, Ray?
I do. I didn't follow the same template you guys did. I just have the Sunday games.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the tournament. That's the one we're doing.
That's a
next,
tournament
so.
lineup.
Okay.
We have that one too.
Go ahead and do that one, and then we'll do ours.
I got Stafford as quarterback, Kay Williams running back, and Harris running back, C.D. Lamb wide receiver, Puka Nacua wide receiver, D. Robinson wide receiver.
Pretty good.
Higbee, Shakir, and the Bills defense.
There's still and just so everybody knows, because there was already a lot of money involved, DraftKings did not change the settings for players that are available in the pool. You can still pick Bills players and Steelers players,
yeah,
for the Sunday tournament,
which makes sense.
Yeah. The money is more important. Yeah. So you want to snake back, or did you do? Yeah. You didn't have a cash one, right?
No.
That was what I had.
Yeah. So, okay. And my Sunday lineup, well, Sunday/Monday now, is Stafford. I went same there. I really like Stafford this week. Jahmyr Gibbs at running back. Even though the Rams are really good against running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs is a little different.
He gets
the
his
way
points
they use
differently.
him. Yes, yeah. I expect to see him getting some screen passes and whatnot, and getting some points there. And I think that Rams Detroit game, it feels like a shootout to me. Like, to me, this feels like a game that's going to hit the over.
I don't see how it's not.
Yeah. It's just, to me, this is going to be a lights out.
To me, it's either a shootout or the Rams dominate this game. That's because I just don't see the Lions being able to hold down the Rams all game long. Yeah. Whereas I could see a world where the Rams get off to a really hot start defensively in particular and cause Jared Goff some problems and then run them over. I could definitely see that happening.
Well, and one of the big things is Detroit, the defense is kind of a pass funnel defense. You know what I mean? You can't run on them, but you can absolutely pass on them, and passing is what the Rams want to do.
The Rams do like to run the football, though. Running for a Sean McVay offense, running sets up the pass. It's very important that their little, and it's funny because like if you watch the Dolphins yesterday, it's a Sean McVay offense. They run the same stuff, and there's a lot of their inside run game is predicated off of motion. You know, they getting guys to move around, getting guys to shift right at the point of impact. You know, and coming up the middle, and then they run play action off of those things. And so it is important that the Rams are able to run the football. I think they will be able to run the football enough.
And I agree with you there enough, and that's why I love Kyron Williams, and I think he's amazing. But he's not making any of my lineups this week. Like
He
I
didn't
think
make my
he's
tournament lineup.
Overpriced.
He didn't make my tournament lineup because I don't think that his ceiling
is very
high enough. Like I think his floor is super high.
Agreed. Yeah, I agree with that absolutely. So anyway, Jahmyr Gibbs, Jalen Warren was my other one. Yeah, well, honestly, the two running Jalen Warren and Najee
How much
Harris
was he?
are priced. They're 5,100 and 5,400, and so on this slate, like if you're they're the only bargains. You know what I mean? Once you go below those two, it's
You're
just
gambling.
absolute garbage.
Yeah, you're just
So
gambling on somebody.
if you're looking for a bargain, it's got to be one of those two. I went with Najee in my cash lineup, which I think is more likely, and this is my. Oh, maybe Steelers are losing and they have to try to catch up, in which case Jalen Warren is going to be the guy. My wide receivers, Cooper Kupp. I feel like
Cooper versus Puka.
yeah, and I went Puka with my cash lineup, but in my tournament lineup, man, I have a feeling that it's going to be Kupp's day today. You know what I mean? I feel like Kupp's the main guy. Demarcus Robinson, of course, like I say, free square this week. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown, like I just can't build a lineup without Amon-Ra in it this
Agreed.
week. Like, oh my
Yeah,
God.
agreed. Well, for me, it was him or CD, and I was like,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna play both.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna find a way to play both.
And you can find a way. Absolutely. Jake Ferguson, I went for tight end, paid up a little bit there.
I love
but,
that. I
yeah,
love that,
I
actually.
needed to get some Dallas players in this lineup.
What was he
and
like?
so-
47.
Yeah,
Like that?
4,700, and then I took Brandon Cooks again with the basement price of 4,900.
Okay,
So
yeah.
those are that's my Dallas exposure there because I do feel like they're going to do well today. And then my DST, like I say, Homer defense, Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, and you're going to be live against me in this tournament lineup. Like we've all got basically the same wide receivers, but I've got CD, so I'm feeling like I'm winning there. That feels pretty good. Anyway, I went with Jared Goff again because at 6,200 he also offers you the tournament upside of 5xing on his number. At running back, I've got James Cook. And for 6,600, same reason you picked Steelers guys in the snow. Like the Bills have been running the ball a lot more. They're going to have to run the ball tomorrow. James Cook's been great. So Aaron Jones at 6,300. I just as a Cowboys fan, I am terrified of Aaron Jones today and nothing else. That's it. That's really all I'm worried about today is Aaron Jones. If Aaron Jones doesn't have a big game today, the Cowboys are absolutely winning this game by 3 touchdowns. At receiver, CeeDee Lamb, Demarcus Robinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. At tight end, I'm on the other side of your game. I've got Tucker Kraft at 3,300.
It's funny you're going with the cheap tight ends this week. So off brand.
Yeah, it is actually. Yeah, but you know what? The Kate Otten one feels more like a gamble than this one does because Tucker Kraft has been an important part of their offense over the last month, and he's made some spectacular plays. From doing my film study of about 30 games this week, he was one of my favorite players. Like one of the players going into the off season for Dynasty that I'm going to be trying to get off of people. I think he has a bright future. I think he might actually be the better tight end. Like they drafted Musgrave first, and Musgrave got all of the hype, but I think Kraft might actually be the better tight end. And then in my flex, I've got Jameson Williams, and my DST is going to be the Bills at home.
Yeah.
All right.
In the snow.
So, switching it up now, everybody. We're going to start talking about the games we haven't talked about as far as calling them. First up is Green Bay Packers versus the Dallas Cowboys. Packers are at +7, over-unders at 51. +280 is the money line, -355 if you're betting on the Cowboys.
Yeah, and honestly, a lot of these games we've kind of talked about roundabout as we've been going here, and
We just haven't put our foot down on picking.
right, and to put my foot, I just see Dallas smashing here. You know what I mean? I think if you guys have been watching, you all know I'm not a Dallas fan. I kind of like seeing them lose. I gotta admit, but no, they're gonna smash the Packers here. People are saying that Love is so good and he's going to make this an interesting game.
I think
he's going to be a shootout. I just don't see that at all.
I think at the end of the day, people are going to be
huge
having doubts and questions.
Yeah.
And honestly, I won't. I still like Jordan Love a lot.
But he's going to look bad today.
I think he's going to look bad today.
Yeah. I completely agree with that. I mean, I guess if you want to talk DFS, there's definitely some people you can go for on Green Bay. All those wide receivers are cheap. So
somebody that people should know
one,
about is Patrick Taylor. He's the he's the backup running back for the Packers, and there's no AJ Dillon today. So there's no AJ Dillon today, and the one thing about Aaron Jones that you don't like in fantasy is that he's not a goal line running back.
Right.
Like if you watch that spectacular fail by Tony Pollard in Miami, and honestly, after rewatching that, I still don't know how he didn't score. Like from every angle that I saw, it's almost like the fix was in. And he did everything he could not to score. He had so much room to just run to the corner of the end zone, and he's like, "Now let me cut back into this guy and get rope-a-doped," like it just get slung to the ground. Anyway, Aaron Jones has that was the one downside about the Packers offense over the last month, was that they weren't very good at picking up short yardage and goal line. I think I watched Aaron Jones fail on 4 or 5 attempts against different teams from inside the 2 to score a touchdown. So Patrick Taylor, if the Packers get to the goal line, he's probably the minimum $4,000. He could score twice today. Like that could happen if the Packers are able to keep up with the Cowboys and they get down close. He will get the ball.
Nice little dart throw out there for somebody. I'm not playing him, but
no, I'm just saying.
But if you're looking to save money, you're putting all your stars in there. Like
exactly.
That's somebody you can save money on.
Exactly. You're you put a lineup together, and sometimes you end up with an odd amount of money, and you don't, and you're gonna throw
somebody there.
You got to pick somebody, and if you're gonna throw your dart, I would almost to me, he's just as good of a dart throw as Jamison Williams is today.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can see those as comparable.
So next up, we got the Rams versus the Detroit Lions. Rams +3. Over-unders at 53, +140 if you're betting on the Rams, and -166 if you're betting on the Lions. Money line.
This is the hard one for me.
Yeah, and so we've been talking about this game. This is going to be a fun game. I really see this as a shootout. This is the one I'm really looking forward to today. Mm-hmm. This one's the Dallas. Which one's first, by the way?
Dallas.
Okay, cool. So we can get that one out of the way.
Yes.
And then we can watch the real fun game.
And I'll be rooting for the Rams together.
Yeah.
Man, this is tough.
It really is
so
because
tough.
both teams are really good. Both teams are playing good. There seems to be something special about the Rams right now, about the way they're coming together. I'm sold. You know what I mean? And maybe it's because we're with Ray every week, and I'm starting to feel the Rams love. But it feels like they're playing so good. They've got everybody coming back. It feels like this is the team that's getting everything coming together at the right time. So we'll see.
I like that about them and the Bucks, actually, who we'll talk about in a little bit. And it's harder to say that about the Bucks because of the last 2 weeks.
Well, and Baker being hurt too.
He's always hurt. So
because of the way he plays.
He's always hurt.
And we'll get to the Bucks.
But I see the Lions as an angry team. Okay. They are focused. They're together, and they're pissed off because they've got a lot of doubters. Yeah. And I like teams like that. Yeah, and a lot of times teams like that are nowhere near as good as the Lions are. The Lions play solid football.
They do.
They don't beat themselves a lot. They take advantage of mistakes that you make. They've got playmakers all over the place on offense and defense. So like Aiden Hutchinson over the last month has been playing as to me.
He's great.
To me, he deserved the All-Pro nod over Chris Jones. I did not think that Chris Jones had as near as impactful a season as Aiden Hutchinson did. Wow. He was a real difference maker. Like if it wasn't for him, the Lions wouldn't have been in that Cowboys game. It was him. He had 3 sacks in that game.
I've seen him make incredible plays.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
he's awesome.
He's their
so much fun
defense
to watch.
for sure.
Yeah. Oh well, they have players at every level now because they've got their leader on defense is actually Anzalone, the young long-haired linebacker.
Okay.
Whereas like number 34 or something like that, he calls all their plays and he runs their defense, and then they got Brian Branch, who who was like we talked about this during draft season that he was the guy I wanted the Cowboys to take, and I believe he made the Pro Bowl as a rookie this year at safety, and he makes plays like he just kind of shows up. He's just kind of like it reminds me a little bit of like Ed Reed, where it's just like he's just around the ball. Like the ball
always there.
The ball is loose or in a dangerous, precarious situation. There's Ed Reed, and Brian Branch reminds me of that. Like he's a smart football player who's just like always there. So and they've been playing tight football. So I want the Rams to win, especially because I don't want the Cowboys to play the Lions again next week. But I also like to be right. And so I'm going to pick the Lions because I think they are going to win.
I can see that, and like I say, obviously this is a really close game. This is hard for us to call, but to me it comes down to the coaches, like we were talking about earlier.
I like that too.
You know what I mean?
I think it's big.
I think that the Rams have a big
and
coaching
on that
advantage
note, they have an advantage, a huge advantage, if you look at Sean McVay and his history against Aaron Glenn coached defenses. So. Like I said, I expect this to be a shootout, and I do think that at the end of the day, the Lions have a little more firepower, and they're like the way that they play a little more button down style of offense. I think they just have a little more, and they'll win the game. But the Rams have the ability, like more of an ability to like run away with this game. So.
Gonna be fun.
It's gonna be fun.
Who do you got, Ray?
I got the Rams. I didn't even Rams by 10. Next up, we got Pittsburgh Steelers versus the Buffalo Bills. Pittsburgh plus 10, over unders 38, plus 380 is the money line on Steelers, minus 500 for the Bills.
And we kind of talked about this in my Homer Minute. Like, of course, Bills are overwhelming favorites. They're 10-point favorites here. Like
only 10?
They should win this game, but. We've got some X factors going. We've got the weather, and just the Steelers hang around. That's what we do,
and that's why it's only 10.
And if we can just and for those of you betting out there, like 10 is too
serious.
much. You should be betting Steelers in
a playoff game with the weather the way that it is. Yeah, and the Bills have not been running away from anybody. The Bills have really like hunkered down their offense to like they're not taking a lot of shots, and it's one of the reasons that I like the Bills this year. They're my pick. Like I'm picking our Super Bowl picks. Like those are coming up. The reason I like the Bills so much is because they're just not making those mistakes that cost them games. They're playing defense. They're kicking the ball away. Josh Allen isn't just winging it all over the place. Yeah. He's more likely to take off and run, so they're not.
They're just playing solid, and they're not going to beat themselves like they were kind of earlier.
I just don't see either of these teams scoring 20 points. So I just don't see how they're going to beat the Steelers by more than 10, 7. But the thing is like the line probably should have been like 6.5 if T.J. Watt had played. And you got to figure T.J. Watt's worth at least 10 points. So the line not being like 17.
That's funny.
That felt good.
That being said, Brian, you going with Steelers?
Yes, I will take my boys.
Honor bound.
I love that. Honor bound. Okay, next up we have the Philadelphia Eagles versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Philadelphia is -3, over under 43. -148 if you're betting on the Eagles, and +124 if you're betting on the Bucs.
I'm about to do one of my favorite things. I'm about to predict the wheels falling off. And I have maintained this position that the Eagles are bumbling and stumbling, but are kind of like a sleeping giant, until this week. Things have been stirring around a lot, and even though when AJ Brown was talking to people, he was defending Sirianni. The way that he was going about doing it was so loose that I didn't think that it was going to play well. Does that make sense? Like because the thing was he said too much. He gave too much information. He should it should have just been left with Sirianni had he'd made this decision and that was that. But when AJ Brown comes out and says, "No, man, Nick's my dog." Like he comes up and he says stuff is his fault when it was on us, and he brings up specific situations where players went against what the coach told them to do. That's not going to play well.
Yeah.
I don't care that you're defending the coach and like thanking him. You're also telling everybody that you don't listen to your coach. So, I wasn't that surprised when I saw that AJ Brown's not playing tomorrow.
I saw that. Yeah.
He might have played his last game for Philly.
You think so? Isn't he still under contract?
It doesn't matter because they're gonna have to pay. They'd have to choose next off season between him and Devontae Smith anyway. And the way the Eagles work, it would not surprise me at all if he doesn't play for them again.
So you think he gets traded because he's still under contract for a while?
Yes,
right?
I think he
so
gets
it's a trade
because he's definitely a tradable asset.
Oh, for
like
sure.
You could probably
High
turn around
demand,
and get another first round pick for
And then
him
some.
after having made your Super Bowl appearance and and gotten your 2 years out of him. So, that's all the Titans got. The Titans got straight up. They got that first round pick.
Is that all they got?
That's all they got. They got Traylon Burks.
Wow.
They got Traylon Burks for AJ Brown.
Whoopsie.
Seems like a loss. So anyway, to talk about the game, the Eagles will be without AJ Brown, and I don't know how they beat the Bucs without AJ Brown. I don't.
It's kind of funny because this is the playoff game that nobody's talking about.
No one wants to watch it.
Yeah, this is the buried playoff game, which is kind of weird because the Eagles had such hype this year. But without AJ Brown, the way they've been stumbling lately, it's hard to pick the Eagles here.
I'm not. I'm gonna pick the Buccaneers at home because on the other side of that, the Buccaneers have not played their best football over the last couple of weeks, but their team is getting healthy.
Well, but Baker Mayfield's not. And Baker didn't practice all week. He got in a limited practice on Friday.
I'm not,
that scares the crap out of me.
I'm not that worried about it because of the way that their offense runs. Like you see some of these highlights where Baker throws it up to Mike Evans and he's scoring some longer touchdowns and stuff. That's not how their offense runs. They have Rashad White is their offense.
Yep.
And so he goes as they go, and the Eagles have just been awful on defense. They've been awful. So even if Baker's hurt, I think the Buccaneers lean into their run game, and it just means more Rashad White. But they don't really ask Baker to make a whole lot of they never ask him to make sideline throws. If you watch they don't ask him to do it because he can't. That's not his game. He can't do that. There's a lot of hitches, a lot of slants, a lot of in routes, a lot of screens. That's what they ask Baker to do. So I don't think it's going to have that much of an effect on their offense. I was more worried about their ability to stop the Eagles. And if the Eagles don't have AJ Brown, they're just not a very dangerous team.
I agree.
Oh, man, this is a tough one for me to decide here. Honestly, you make good arguments, but I'm going to stick with my gut here, and that Baker is just too hurt. I think the Eagles are just kind of going to outclass Tampa for this game, but it's going to be closer than it should be. Eagles are going to be beat up, and Eagles are going to lose in the next round, but I think that they're going to win here.
So of all those games, only the Cowboys have a clean sweep on our little panel, 3-man panel.
Oh, wow. Wow, interesting.
Lots of disagreements. And for our picks yesterday, none of us had we didn't agree yesterday. It's funny.
all,
Ken got them both right, but we got 1-1, right?
I got 0 right.
Oh, you went 0-2.
Yeah, I went 0-2.
He did pick the Browns and Dolphins yesterday.
And, the Dolphins got cold. They were cold.
Yeah.
And Kurt Warner was talking about that, and maybe we should talk about that a little bit. Just like
The weather?
just in general, like when it comes to playoff games and stuff, you want to see the best teams at their best, and you don't want weather to be a factor. That's what he was saying.
It's
Build
funny.
domes.
And actually, well,
Every new stadium being built will probably have a dome, unless it's
While-
like Arizona or something where weather's not too much of a factor. But
while I was waiting for you, I saw something on. I was checking Twitter real quick, see if there's any updates, and there was this tweet from or X. There was this, whatever they call it. So what is it? So you don't. What do you send on X? Because on Twitter you used to send tweets. So what do you send on X? Like
tweets, they're still tweets.
that's so stupid.
I know, but it's still tweets.
I'm not. I'm gonna come up with another name. All right. Like something. Yeah, anyway.
Expedited messages,
O's. It'll be
expedited posts.
It'd be O's. So you've got X and you send O's. Anyway, it was Andy from the Footballers who was posting about watching football games in the elements and how, and I agreed with this post, and how I would rather watch the football players play a game in the elements than watch them play in the dome, because I'm removing my fantasy brain from like when I want to watch football. Like there's what I want to have happen fantasy wise, but when I sit down to watch a football game, I want to watch a good football game. And honestly, like football inside domes feels a little mechanical when you've got guys that are like like shivering in the cold, and you've got Andy Reid's booger icicles, and you've and these like what was it? Somebody got hurt in the game last night. Like he got tackled out of bounds, and I think it was Rashee Rice. He got up kind of slow, right? All that he did was bang his ankle on the ground, but it was so cold that it was like knocking your ankle bone on concrete.
Yeah,
And that
yeah.
and so
the helmets were so cold they were shattering.
yeah, like like Mahomes looked like Tony Stark fighting Thanos last night. He had half a helmet. That was awesome. And watching these high class athletes struggle through the elements like that is football to me. That's football. When I think of football, I think of the old highlights that films that I'd watch as a kid with the voiceover, and you watch the and this was in the tweet too. You watch the guys, their breath coming out of them, like it's. That's what you think of when you think of football. You think or the Ice Bowl, the Cowboys.
Yeah,
That's what
sure.
you think of for football. Like I understand that you're an old school guy. You love they need to hit more than all this stuff. But man, I don't know. I like to see these offenses run. I'd much rather see a dome game.
Watch arena football, bro. Go watch arena football. And you know what? Kurt Warner's from arena football. Bam!
Oh yeah, that makes sense. I mean, he's not the only one out there screaming at it either, though. But I do see this, like, the times do kind of move on and things evolve, and eventually, maybe not in our lifetime, but they'll all be played in like domes and stuff as
I hope not.
stadiums
I hope
get
they move.
rebuilt.
I hope they go back to playing in grass.
Yeah.
Outside.
Okay. So that being said, yeah, absolutely. If you're going to be playing in elements and stuff, like if that's if we're going to kind of go more that direction and that path, then yeah, let's get rid of the turf too while we're at it, and put the grass back in and stuff
newer
like
stadiums
that.
like San Francisco. Like if you have not been to Santa Clara and been to Levi Stadium, it's perfect. It's perfect. Beautiful open setting, like the grass field is perfect. That's how football is supposed to be
But
played.
it's also in California, where they're never going to have the deep snow or the horrible weather.
That's
or
not true.
anything, you know what I mean?
No, the
that's not
snow.
true.
That's true about the snow.
And San Francisco has some of the worst weather in California, like the whipping winds and the rain and stuff like that. So, like if you
But the snow, I think, is where the line
Cowboys,
the line should be drawn at some point in
I don't think so.
the blizzarding weather. Obviously, you know what I mean. They moved the Steelers game to Monday.
Why, though,
I
right?
mean, but
that didn't have to do with the players. That had to
was
do with
travel.
the stress it was going to put on people that were going to be ensuring safety for everybody, where coming to players, people traveling to the stadium, and stuff like that. And I didn't bring this up earlier, but now I will since it makes sense. But I think if the game had been originally scheduled for Monday and it was a blizzard or whatever, they probably would have just played it. The fact that it was on a Sunday means that if they want to bring in extra people to do help, they're going to pay them overtime. So, and that's another reason why if the Bills made that announcement that they were going to pay people $20 an hour, anybody who was eligible, quote unquote eligible, border scam, to come work and shovel snow. But anyway, yeah, it didn't have to do with player safety. It had to do with public safety. And
I'm not sure I was making a case for player safety though. Just from I guess that's a adverse effect of it. But
there were fans that were shirtless last night at the Chiefs.
Yeah.
game.
Yep. I seen that too. I was like, that dude's shirtless. Like,
High IQ right there.
so with that, is there anything left? We have anything left to
Football's
talk about?
about being tough. Hey, football is a game that comes from war. Like it is a
and
war
we've
game.
talked about that, and that's where its origin story is. But that doesn't mean like
So
that's
to me,
where we're going,
like, well, then let's just I don't even know how to do this, but let's have a flag football division, and you can have, and honestly, a lot of these players would be able to play past their their like contact football age. Because a lot of these guys, they're not done at 32. They just can't get hit in the knees anymore. So, I don't
think it'll ever get there, but I mean, we're on our way.
Check it out. Have you ever watched the Big Three for basketball? Are you guys basketball fans?
Not really. No,
not really.
But I know what you're talking about. It's Ice Cube's league, right? And then
yes, and it's these guys, these high level athletes. These are like, we're talking about basketball players that are 45 now, 50, can still ball. Like at the highest levels, they just can't do it tomorrow. They just can't do it again tomorrow. They can't do it again in 2 days. They can't play 3 games a week. But like 1 game a week, these guys still look really, really, really good. And I think that the NFL could probably do, like, especially when you're looking at now, these guys like running backs are having to exit the league at 27, 28 years old. That they're done. Like, you can't play football anymore. That's probably not true. They're probably still really good. They're probably still better than any college football player. So it's just that they can't keep up with the rigors of of the NFL anymore. And like, so rather than water down the the game that we love, the high contact game that we love, just fix it.
Expand the rosters,
like,
so that way you can have more guys that maybe they play every other week or something. I mean, yeah, I can see where you're
something
going
like that. And it's like, and the only thing that you'd have to fight against that is like, what about fantasy football? That would make fantasy football decisions so hard.
That is an important argument. Okay.
yeah, because
honestly,
I think
near and dear to my heart.
There's a lot of dollars. It's not even about your heart.
Absolutely.
There's so much money involved now from fantasy football.
Fantasy football made football what it is for
today.
the last 30
for better
years.
or worse. For better or worse, it has definitely
Absolutely.
driven the direction of fantasy football or football that we watch on television.
So yeah, I think the only thing left is our Super Bowl picks, right?
Oh, are we doing that? Are we
Let's
doing
do
that
it.
this week?
We got to.
Okay, all right. I thought about it. Let me think.
Yeah, we can't let, like, we've already had 2 games happen, so let's not have too much happen to influence our decision making process for Super Bowl picks.
Well, and honestly, I don't think those 2 games really
they didn't
affect things too much.
but these ones will.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
All right.
Honor bound Rams.
We're all picking our own teams to make the Super Bowl.
Honor bound
I hope we're not
Rams.
doing that because only one of us should be.
Ray.
Only one team has gone and won on the NFC side. Quarterback. That's the Rams.
And the funny thing this year is I keep looking at these brackets and I'm like, okay, I don't want to be the homer. I don't want to be the one that's just picking the number 1 on each side. You know what I mean? You want to look deep and everything else. I'm just like,
what's going to happen?
To me, it looks like Niners Ravens. I don't like. Okay, Niners to me seem to be the class. They're definitely the one I'm like. This is the team I feel confident about going to the Super Bowl. Niners look good. I go over to the AFC side and I'm looking at all these teams. I'm going, God, any of them could really like. There's no super dominant team. I guess I got to take the Ravens there. That's rough. That's not what I want to do, but that's what I'm doing.
We're almost there, buddy.
I got Ken with the Cowboys. It's his year, I think.
Are we talking about? Are we just picking the winners of the Super Bowl?
No, I thought we were
the
just
two
making our
two teams to go.
Okay, the 2 teams to go. Okay.
Let's see here. Who do I want from?
Because actually, when it comes, I'm confident in the 2 teams I'm picking making the Super Bowl, and then I actually I would be honor bound to pick my boys to win,
Of course.
but I'd just be like, I'm so afraid of Josh Allen.
Really?
I
Wow.
really am, dude. I think he's he's the dude.
Okay.
As Vic, was it Vic Fangio that said that? Josh, he was. They were talking. They brought up a portion of a press conference where people were asking Vic Fangio, the Dolphins defensive coordinator, about Josh Allen going into their Week 18 matchup, and that was all he came up with was like, "Yeah, he's a dude."
And you're thinking Bills,
That's
Ken?
fair.
Yes, I'm picking the Bills.
Okay.
And honestly, Josh Allen obviously is a dude, but that Bills defense, man, they are still so good. Even with all the pieces that they have missing, they're still so good. And if they get there, the biggest deal of the year was when they stole Rasul Douglas from the Packers, who were in the playoffs. So the Packers traded one of their top 2 corners, maybe their best corner, and Jair Alexander. Don't know what happened to that guy. Was never a big fan, but he seems to have just dumbed his way out of into the doghouse in Green Bay. Because he's not going to play, I don't think, and hasn't played. I don't think he's played since he almost messed up their coin flip in Carolina. Did you guys know about that?
I
Yeah,
remember hearing
saw that.
something. I don't.
He went out. He was not a captain, and
yeah.
went out with the captains, and didn't know how to properly announce their decision, and almost cost them the ball, or almost cost them because they wanted to kick. And he didn't say defer. We want to defer. He just said we want to kick. Something
Nice.
like that.
Yeah.
And so
He got
hasn't played-
suspended for a week for it, too.
He hasn't played since.
Wow. Fun
So
stuff.
these teams are very serious about that stuff. It doesn't really matter how big of a star you are. Number one is organizational, functionality. And so if you break the rules and stuff like that, you're going to find yourself on the way out. And it looks like that might be happening to AJ Brown in Philly, and it looks like that might be happening to Jair Alexander in Green Bay.
Crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy.
And
But
wanted to see if you're out there, man. Tell us your picks. I don't know if you're still listening, but
I've been
always
talking
curious
to him a
where
little
you're at.
bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if he just hasn't heard me, but he hasn't been talking back. So I don't know if he's out there.
We're just on in the background. He's barbecuing right now,
Yeah,
making a
probably.
brisket.
Barbecue sounds
He's in Texas,
good.
right?
Yeah, he's in Texas.
Yeah, he's probably making a brisket, which we're gonna do for Super Bowl.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Brisket.
No, I'm planning on.
Brisket
you're
for
doing
Super Bowl.
brisket on Super
Yeah.
Bowl.
Yes,
Wow.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
do it.
All
I'm gonna
right.
get it done.
Doing it right.
Yes, sir. We'll get that thing smoked.
Awesome. All right, everybody. Till next week. We'll see who's
Cowboys.
right and who's wrong. Why is it doing that? I must have accidentally double tapped it. Double tapping.
Always
Next week,
double tap.
go Rams.
Always double tap.
Don't forget, subscribe, notifications, all that stuff.
See you later.
And we'll see you guys next time.
Did you want to find a way